They think life begins. For us, we believe that death begins. We believe that life begins at death. We don't care about death. We love death. And if you think that our people in Palestine or across the Arab and Muslim world will let go of the struggle and our sacred places like Al-Aqsa.
All right, so that was key. So he says, for us, life begins at death. We love death, right? And I've shown this video a couple of times on this channel, and I will also show you the Quranic verses and hadith. But to show you that this comes from Islam, this teaching, what Mohammed Hijab is saying, is the most dangerous part of Islam. I know a lot of you think that the cutting of the hands, the crucifying people who are challenging Islam, the killing of unbelievers, the killing of LGBT people, the fighting against non-believers, all of that part, the torture of people who commit zina, those are the most problematic parts of Islam, and those verses and those hadiths are constantly mentioned to warn people about Islam. But I'm telling you, and I will always give you the arguments for why all of that is nothing compared to this part of Islam and how important and how problematic this part of Islam is. The fact that this life does not matter. It's the afterlife that matters. This world is called dunya. The afterlife is called the akhirah. And everything you do needs to be for the akhirah, because this life is temporary and that life is infinite. And this is what makes Islam a death cult. And this is the most dangerous part of Islam, because it basically completely changes the priorities of an individual and a society. So I could show you how Islam is anti-democratic. I could show you how, and I will show you how Islam is anti-democratic or intolerant or anti-liberty, the opposite of what Mohammed Hijab said. But a religion that teaches you that life begins at death cannot, even if I don't have example verses, even if I don't have specific examples of hadith and Quran that will show you that by itself shows you that Islam cannot be in line with Western Enlightenment values. Why? Because the whole point, the entire reason for Enlightenment values is to improve life, is to increase prosperity, is to increase well-being. The whole point of Enlightenment values is for improving the dunya. No ideology can be in line with Enlightenment values if it teaches you that life does not matter. It's what comes after death that matters. Any ideology that shifts your priorities in such a dramatic way is a death cult. Everything else that we have that is problematic about Islam is rooted in this teaching. Because everything else about Islam makes sense if this is true. The problem with Islam is not that it's nonsense. The problem with Islam is that it actually makes sense if you accept this foundational understanding of how the world works. The terrorism, the violence, the execution of people like me that are apostates. It all makes sense. It all logically follows if what Mohammed Hijab is saying here is true. So keep that in mind. But it gets worse. So it's a death cult. So let me give it to you in 3 stages. It's a death cult, and that's the first layer. The second layer is that it's expansionist, that it wants to destroy everything that is not Islamic and make it Islamic. So, and the third part is that it has the fact that it's focused on death and the afterlife makes demonstrating your deterring capabilities against it less effective. And these are the three parts that I will show you with Mohammed Hijab's own words that shows you what a dangerous ideology Islam is. Because if it was just the first part, let's say it was a death cult that was just isolationist and it was just a few people focusing on the afterlife and they were not minding their own business, but they thought the afterlife was more important, but it was just themselves. But it's not just a death cult. It's a death cult that wants to take over the world. So it's a virus that is spreading that is spreading, that is viral. That is going, spreads like wildfire. But also the third part breaks this. It completes the destructive nature of Islam. The third part is the fact that you can't deter it in the same way that you could deter other groups of people because it's a death cult. So here's the first video. Let's go to the second part that shows you how it spreads because it has an expansionist attitude. Look at this. So remember what Mohammed Hijab said earlier. Mohammed Hijab was saying that there's no contradiction between Islam and UK values. So UK values, apparently, I think, care about life. UK values are there to enhance people's lives. Mohammed Hijab tells you that they don't care about life. They care about life. For them, life begins at death. So now here's the second video by Mohammed Hijab. Oh, by the way, special thanks to Harris Sultan for sending me these videos. I reached out to him and he had these ready for me and he sent them to me. So I just want to make sure that I give him credit for cutting these videos and having them ready for me. So thank you. So listen to this.
If you look at the central figure of Islam, which is Muhammad, right? He went through a war, or a variety of wars, a series of wars, and at the end of it, he was victorious. And that's historically attested to. I mean, there's no controversy on that issue. And that's why Islam spread and so on. So Islam is a warrior religion in many ways, and it's unapologetically so. It's about expansion, it's about conquest and so on.
So it's about expansion, okay? So here's one part, and here's the second video confirming that.
Reason why you have to fight them is because they are Jews and Christians. You should fight those empires around you, or those hukumat around you, which are Jew or Christian, until they give the jizya. That's fine. That we already know Islam allows. And then the howness of that is in the hadith. The three options that they're given.
The three options is for you to either submit to Islamic law, give the jizya, pay the money, or become Muslim yourself, or die, okay? Or actually leave this place.
You give the jizya, or you do this, or you do that.
Okay, so look at, he says, you give the jizya, or you do this, or you do that. So the do that part is die. Like he didn't mention, like he didn't say, like the third option is die.
That. Yeah, we're not.
Why doesn't he not mention? Why does he say you give the jizya, or you do this, or you do that? Why didn't you mention all the three options? Why didn't you mention all? Why do you, from all the three options? Why did you mention what the other two are?
Options that they're given. Either you give the jizya, or you do this, or you do that. Yeah, we're not apologetic about that point.
It's amazing that one of the three options is dying. You're like, hey, you have the option to just be killed by us. Do you want that option?
That is true. Your religion has to have an expansionist element. So then, therefore, there is no situation or conceivability of peace being made between Muslims and non-Muslims.
Islam is a warrior religion.
Very
you have to fight them is because options that.
Look at this part. Let's go back to this part. This was really. Remember how he was saying Islam is so tolerant? Listen to this part again.
True. Your religion has to have an expansionist element. So then, therefore, there is no situation or conceivability of peace being made between Muslims and non-Muslims.
Islam is a warrior religion in many ways, and it's unapologetically so. It's about expansion. It's about conquest.
All right, so that's the second layer. Remember, the first layer was that it focuses on death. It's a death cult. The second part is that it's trying to expand by force, and it does that effectively. But now the third part, which makes it complete, is now that we want to fight back against this virus. It's hard to fight back. Like if you are fighting against communism or Nazism, the point is that the soldiers in those ideologies, they care about life as well. So when you fight back against them, there are ways to deter them. There are ways that you could take things away from them that will make them submit, that will make them surrender. But the third part of Islam that makes it goes back to focus on death makes fighting against that very difficult. So let's look at this other last video. So let's look at what he's saying. Mohammed Hijab is saying here. Isn't it great? Isn't it great that I have Mohammed Hijab videos to respond to Mohammed Hijab before I go to the Quranic verses and hadith?
Allah says in the Quran, is there any respite for us or is there any result for us except for the two good things?
So Muslims, they only have two good options. Either they will crush you in war and win, or you will kill them and they will win because they were martyrs and go to heaven. So it says we will win either way. We will win in either way because if they die in war, again, it's a death cult. They want that. They for them life begins at death, and they go to the best part of heaven because they died in war. So either way, they're winning. That makes it more difficult for you to defeat this virus because dying doesn't deter them. Losing their children, losing their homes doesn't deter them because this is life. This is dunya. This is temporary.
Two good things, either victory or shahada.
Shahada
How
means
can
martyrdom.
you lose? The biggest winners in the world today are the people in Gaza. Because they're in between two things, victory and martyrdom.
Imagine how destructive of an ideology this is for the people in Gaza. This is why Islam is responsible for all the hardship of people in Gaza. Imagine looking at what's happening in Gaza and teaching the world that they are the best, they are in the best situation. This is why people in Gaza are suffering, because they have encouraged them to be in such a position, because they're fighting an unwinnable battle, but they think that they're winning. They're welcoming all this hardship upon them because people like Mohammed Hijab is encouraging them and giving them false hope. And some of the people in Gaza are now the worst off, some of the worst off people in the world. But according to Islam and according to Mohammed Hijab, they're actually it's the best place to be, and the best people to be right now is in Gaza, and to be one of the people of Gaza. This is how bizarre this ideology is, and this is why people in Gaza are suffering, right? So let's go to the Quranic verses and hadith to confirm everything that we heard here is actually consistent with Islamic teaching. So we said, is Islam democratic? So a lot of Muslim scholars will argue, well, no, we are not democratic, because the Quran, so this is Quran chapter 5 verse 44, and says, whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, then it is those who are the disbelievers. So the Quran says that our judgment is based on God's law, based on Allah's law, not by man-made law. There are many Quranic verses that poo-poos any laws or standards that is man-made, and it says laws and standards come from Allah. So democracy is ruled by the people. Islam says we don't rule by the people, we rule by what Allah has said. The Sharia, which means Islamic law, is Allah's law. The only time that you have a shura or have a council of Muslims coming together and deciding something is for things that Allah and the Sunnah, which means the way of the Prophet, has not commented on. That shura, that council, is what so many Muslims try to refer to act like Islam is democratic. But those are only for things that there's no Quranic verse and no hadith and no Sunnah on. And here's some news for you. They have commented on a lot. They have left very few things up for humans to decide. So basically, if you have democracy, which is the shura or the council that Muslims have, it has Allah, the Quran. If you read the Quran and all the entirety of hadith, there's very little things that democratic council, which has, well, actually it's not even democratic, but let's say it is, that council gets to, the wiggle room is very, very small, because Quran, they brag about the Quran and the hadith being so complete that has commented on almost everything, right? They even comment about how to wash the cum off of your clothes if cum gets in your clothes after sex, right? So they have covered everything. The Sharia covers everything. So yeah, if you want to be, if the Shura wants to comment on something, it has to be for the very few things left. Okay, so that's democracy. What was the next one? Oh, respect. So let's go to respect. But Mohammed Hijab said, well, Islam is respectful and tolerant, right? We have a Quranic verse here for you guys that says, this is Quran chapter 5, verse 51. It says, "O you who have believed," meaning the mu'mineen, meaning the believers, "do not take the Jews and Christians as allies. They are in fact allies of one another. And whoever is an ally to them among you, then indeed he is one of them. Indeed, Allah guides not the wrongdoing people." All right, so that was very tolerant of Christians and Jews. And here's a very tolerant hadith. And again, this is Sahih Hadith, Sahih Muslim. People who know their Islam, they know that when Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari are the most authentic and authoritative and fundamental part of Sunni Islamic teaching. And you can, this is inseparable from Islam. This is second only to the Quran teaching. Most Sharia mostly comes from the Hadith. Most of Sharia doesn't come from the Quran, it comes from Hadith. And this is Sahih Muslim, which is a very, one of the two most the two main sources of Hadith in Sunni Islam is Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari. So let's see what this one says. It says, "The last hour will not come unless the Muslims will fight against the Jews, and the Muslims will kill them until the Jews would hide themselves behind a stone or a tree, and a stone or a tree would say, 'Muslim, or the servant of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him.' But the qarqat tree would not say, for it is the tree of the Jews." So basically this hadith is saying that the last day, basically the day of the day of judgment, will not come before the end of days. What will happen is that Muslims will be hunting down Jews. Again, YouTube, not my words. I'm telling people about the problematic teachings in the hadith. I do not endorse this. So Muslims will be hunting down Jews and trying to kill them, and the Jews will be hiding behind rocks and trees, but there will be an Islamic miracle. A beautiful Islamic miracle will happen, and the trees and the stones will shout out like, "Muslims, come, there's a Jew hiding behind me, come kill him." But there's one tree that will not betray the Jews. It's a qarqad tree. It's a Jew tree. And that tree will not betray the Jews. But it's a bad tree, basically. But the other trees will betray will give away their hiding places. And yeah, so very tolerant, very, very respectful, obviously.